Going to need your chair because you're going to be sitting, and you're going to need your block. So we're coming to this position here, and before we even think about what our kind of feet and legs are doing, we have to think about our pelvis and our upper body. So for this position, we want our pelvises to be tilted forwards into what we call extension or an anterior pelvic tilt. So notice here how my pelvis is tilting forwards and I have a slight arch in my lower back. I'm not allowing my pelvis to droop backwards, and I'm not allowing my spine to round. So I'm rolling my pelvis over my femurs, my thigh bones, to put the pelvis into extension. Moving the pelvis forward over the femurs is not the same as flaring your ribs. So lots of people will not be able to kind of comfortably move their pelvis backwards and forwards, and therefore their body is trying to trick them into thinking that they're pushing their pelvis forward, but actually they're just puffing their rib cage out. So make sure that your rib cage stays down and it's the pelvis that moves forward instead. Throughout the exercise, you're trying to keep your pelvis in this position. You might notice that it wants to kind of rock backwards and forwards, or you might find that as you get more tired, you start slumping backwards. Stop the exercise when you feel like you can't control your pelvis anymore. We're going to put the block this way around, so not the narrow way, not the wide way, the medium way, in between your knees, and when you look down at your knees, you'll see that that kind of keeps them at about hip width distance apart. Your ankles are going to be directly underneath your knees, so they're not too close to the chair, nor too far away, and you're trying to keep your feet in truly parallel alignment. So when we think about parallel alignment of the feet, you are making sure that your toes are not wider than your ankles. So lots of people will put their ankles in alignment with their knees and their hips, but the toes are then spread out to the side. So we're thinking about our toes as kind of separate entities to make sure that the whole leg, if you're looking at the person front on, is in alignment with the hip. So really do watch what your toes are doing here. You're going to have your palms facing up and kind of relaxing through your shoulders and upper body. And we're tilting that pelvis forward, bringing the rib cage in. We're going to maintain a gentle squeeze on the block, so kind of 3 out of 10 level of effort. You're not trying to crush the block. And we're going to be doing heel raises like this. So can you see, as I move my heels up, that my pelvis is not rocking backwards and forwards? There's no movement in my upper body, other than my arms that are kind of going along for the ride slightly with my knees, but there's no movement in my pelvis and in my spine. So watch out for that. Keep the pelvis driving forwards, and it puts the work into the hips. When you lift, and we're going to do 3 sets of 10, when you lift your feet up, you're trying to keep your toes relaxed. So you're pivoting around the ball of the foot rather than going up onto your toes like a ballerina in their point shoes. The toes stay grounded and relaxed. And you're imagining that you've got eggshells underneath your feet so that you're not too kind of clumsy and heavy with the feet. I want you to imagine that the movement is originating from the top of the leg, the hips, the upper thighs, and it's kind of feeding down your leg to the feet rather than you really sort of pushing with your feet, because that might be where the pelvic tipping backwards movement comes from. So maintaining gentle squeeze in the block, relaxing the belly. We're keeping our breath calm, collected, diaphragmatic, in and out of the nose, unless you have a blocked nose today. And as soon as you start noticing that you're holding your breath or breathing too intensely, you're probably trying a little bit too hard. So just back out of the movement. You don't have to take your feet to the highest possible level. So just make sure that you're staying in control of your breath, as well as noticing if anything hurts you, which is different than things waking up and feeling like they are kind of working hard. So pelvis stays forward, rib cage stays down. We're going to do 1 set of 10, have a little break, and then we're going to do 2 more sets after that. So I'm squeezing the block, 3 out of 10 level effort maximum, and I'm going to lift up from my hips into the balls of my feet, and I'm trying to push my ankles so that they move into the big toe joint. So I don't want my ankles, as they move upwards, going wider than the toes and kind of buckling outwards. We're trying to drive into the big toe joints to encourage something that happens or should happen when we are walking. So 10 of these, off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bring the feet back down. Have a little bit of a rest. With the Egoscue menus, they have sets of reps, so 3 sets of 10, for example, in this instance, and it is important to take a little break, recalibrate yourself and set yourself back up again, because it's really good for your brain to have to keep setting itself up rather than you just doing 3 sets straight out in one sort of go of 30 reps all in one time. We want you to have a little break and then for you to have to rethink, okay, I'm putting my pelvis forward, my rib cage is down, have I got the eggshells under my feet, and is everything in a straight line as I move my feet forwards. Next set, off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Another little break. You might notice that as things are waking up, you're feeling your calves perhaps a little bit. You might be feeling your feet a little bit. You might be feeling kind of wobbliness and judderiness through the feet, which is good. It's the feet having to kind of control and stabilize that sort of upward downward movement. And you may start feeling things kind of around your hips and in your inner thighs because of the pressure of the block and because of the tilting forwards of the pelvis. Upper body stays relaxed. Last set, off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that was sitting heel raises with a block. We're going to pop the block and the chair to one side, and we're moving on to an exercise called